Posted by you/Chaibaby2424. I think I met a Craigslist killer.
When I was 19, I was looking for a room to rent in the city I was moving to for college.
It was about an hour away from my family. I wasn't having much luck and my mom started helping me look for a place. She found an ad on CL for a room for $300 in a house, everything included. The homeowner was a man and he rented the additional rooms upstairs to other women while he lived in the finished basement. The ad stated he rarely ever saw the other roommates because he had a kitchen and his entrance downstairs, and that he preferred women because he had issues with male roommates in the past, partying and causing damage. We decided to take a look since it was the cheapest that we could find in the area. My mom and I went to the house to view it. Decent house, a decent neighborhood. He opened the door and was very welcoming. He was middle-aged and the kitchen and living room were furnished nicely and clean. My mom loves to talk and get to know people, so they were engaged in conversation while I stood there quietly and observed the place. He then said he would show me my room. We head towards the staircase to go up, as I thought since he said on the phone my room was upstairs with the other roommates, but he opens another door and we follow. He takes us down to the basement and opens a door to a very small room, with no closet and no windows. He proceeds to say this is my room and I will be sharing the bathroom in the hallway with him, and his bedroom did not have a door on it. I was thinking not this is weird, but they were so deep in conversation that I couldn't interject. He then leads us to the upstairs and shows us the other rooms in which the doors were open and says they are currently rented. He then starts telling us elaborate stories about the other women, not very nice stories describing drinking problems. My mom was listening intently, but I took the time to investigate further. I looked in all 3 rooms and the bathrooms. There was furniture but not a single item in there that looked like it belonged to a woman, no clothes or anything. Only men's clothes in one of the closets. He had no problem with me creeping around his tenants' rooms without their permission. I then heard him tell my mom that he has some of his stuff in their closets but they don't mind, and I'm just like, why the hell would a tenant pay you for you to use their space as storage? I was feeling uncomfortable and started moving them back downstairs as they talked. My mom had mentioned when we arrived that she and my dad were going on vacation the next week, but I couldn't go because I had to work. He brought it up again and that I should come by the next week and have dinner with him and the roomies to see if we would all get along. I said sure and we left. As soon as we got in the car, I told my mom I would not be living there. She was dumbfounded. I had to explain to her not only did he lie about the room I would be in, that I was not supposed to be in the basement with him as well as share a bathroom with him, and he didn't even have a damn door, but also did she not notice how no one else even lived there? She still didn't get it and thought I was just being paranoid and thought he was nice and it was a cheap deal. I had to explain it to my stepdad and get him to tell. By no means would I be living there. I tried to report the post, but by the time we got home that day he removed it. I think he planned on murdering me at dinner or abducting me and holding me hostage in that basement room that had no way to escape. I hope that guy hits a tree with his car one day. Posted by you/Shuddering Shannon. Hidden camera in the hotel I was showering in. So my stupid brand new water heater broke down from all the calcium and things in the water, and so we rented a hotel room so we could all get a shower. My hubby and teenage daughters had gone first. While they took their shower, I had already been looking for cameras after shows and articles depicting warnings to check had me freaked out. My husband had laughed at me. So I thought we were safe. It wasn't until I was standing inside the shower that I saw the camera. You had to see it from a certain angle wrapped around the light that had a cover over the bottom of it but an opening around the edges in the middle. I looked up and there it was. I screamed and my hubby came running in. I told him when it was and he checked, and sure enough. He took the bottom cover off and the camera fell and was wired to the light and set to sit and point looking down into the shower. My husband ripped it out and marched straight to the office, and from there a fight ensued. The creepy guy got pissed my husband was destroying his room and the owner called the cops. Well, my hubby is a hothead when he's on a moral mission and grabbed the guy up by the scruff of the collar. His mentality was, if I'm going to go to jail I'm going to make it worth it. But the guy's wife come out and by then I was dressed in there for backup and she wanted to know what was happening. So I told her what happened. She said wait right here. She had grabbed a knife from her room and was chasing the owner guy around with it when the cops showed up. The cops asked us what happened first. When we told them, they took the owner in and found hundreds of videos in a private nook in his bedroom they're using to build a case on him. So beware to check everywhere before ever undressing in a hotel. Posted by you/wolf_dream. Prelude to my Hills Has Eyes moment in Texas. My mom reminded me of the first half of that trip, which I blocked out. It explains why I was so confused about locations and is bizarre enough for its post. Long, TL, DR, An old friend was helping me drive partway across the country. Head trauma had changed him from the person I once knew, and he acted increasingly bizarre until I was able to get rid of him, not long before someone tried to lure me out into the empty desert. I had a ton of questions about where the events in my other post happened. It has nagged at my mind ever since. I should have had a general idea, but just kept drawing a giant blank. I've driven that same route many times and didn't remember anything remotely close to where I found myself that time. I eventually called my mom and asked if she remembered me saying anything about it. First, she pointed out that I had the wrong year, fix now, and reminded me that I started with a passenger. Suddenly it all came flooding back and I know exactly why I was so lost and on edge. I had just quit my job at the casino and hated my new job. It didn't pay like it was supposed to and my boss was a condescending jerk. My roommate of 4 years and I had a falling out. I was crashing into my cousin's room. I couldn't find an affordable place. So when my mom called and said that she was having surgery and needed me to come to manage her shop while she recovered, I jumped on the chance to get out of the city and out into the forests of the Oregon coast. I didn't have a ton of money, but I figured my savings and a little help from mama would get me there. However, every 10 U-Haul in the city was reserved or rented. I had to take a 14-footer which was much more expensive. Suddenly the money situation was looking grim. So when an old friend from high school in Oregon called me asking if he could crash on our couch for 2 weeks to check out New Orleans in exchange for paying for gas, food, and hotels for part of the trip, I was super relieved. He wanted to be dropped off at his extended family's place in Texas, southwest of Dallas. He could help me drive too. I quickly agreed. He purchased his plane ticket to come down. I called my best friend from Oregon, Katie, told her I was coming and told her how Dan was going to help me to Texas. The three of us and his long-term girlfriend had been close, so I expected her to be excited. Instead, I was met with long seconds of silence before she asked me if I knew about his accident. I didn't. A few years before, Dan had wrecked his bike while not wearing a helmet. He was in a coma for several months. Katie told me that when he woke up he was a different person. She said none of our old group would have anything to do with him anymore, but wouldn't elaborate further. She would only repeat that he was just different. I felt a little nervous after this conversation, but the plane ticket was already bought. Disclaimer, when I knew him before, Dan was hands down one of the best people I've ever met. He was genuine, generous, and truly cared about everyone. You could trust him with anything. I realized that the way he acted later was at least partially the result of trauma and will try to be respectful of this fact, however many things he did catapult over the line of decency. I admit that I could have handled this much better, but to be honest I had a lot of trouble finding understanding as his inappropriate behavior escalated. Once he arrived, my cousin and I noticed that he was always slightly out of it and had no filter. Okay, we can deal with that. Then he says he forgot to transfer his money from his savings to his checking and his bank was giving him trouble about transferring it over the phone. He assured me he would get it straight before we left. Now he's the guy on the couch whom I am responsible for feeding and covering bar tabs for. I had plans for goodbye blowouts with friends and my aunt didn't want him there if I was out. I wasn't missing the chance to see all my people one last time so I was stuck with him. He promised he would pay me back. Then he started getting more and more handsy with my cousin Natalie and me. We made it very clear this was unwanted and inappropriate. He would walk into our room unannounced, especially at times we were getting ready and likely to be undressed. We had to install a lock because he ignored every demand that he knock and wait for a response. He would stroke our feet as he walked by while we were laid out relaxing on the bed, stand so close we could feel him breathe, touch us every time we walked by, rub our shoulders, and touch our hair. By the time I caught him smelling my hair and secretly taking pictures of our butts while we were walking, I was officially creeped the hell out and working toward furious. I was about to be alone with him in a hotel mile from anyone I knew. I grew increasingly stronger in my reactions to what he was doing, trying to discourage him from his behaviors. He would apologize, then rinse and repeat. 2 weeks later, we were on our way. Crossing a bridge right before Shreveport, he reached over and slid his hand across my upper thigh. He went for the money and his fingers were brushing my lady parts. I swerved, smacked his hand away, and promptly began ripping him a new. Suddenly the inside of the U-Haul was filled with flashing red and blue lights. Images of everything I own being impounded filled my head. Luckily the officer caught the byplay between us and let me go without a ticket. He cast a significant glance at Dan, who was acting like a total weirdo, wandering around talking to either us or himself, who knows, and simply told me, "Good luck." Yeah. Thanks, Shreveport cop, I appreciate your understanding. Once we got to Shreveport I stopped for gas. Dan claimed that he had the money in his account now, so I asked him for it. He started freaking out saying he'd lost his wallet. Funny, I hadn't seen him pull it out once in over 2 weeks, so not sure how he lost it. But I pay for the gas. As I'm climbing back into the truck, I'm 4 feet 11 inches, I had to boost myself up because I had started to slip. From the odd vantage point this put me in, I could see the top of his wallet crammed in the space between the tall dashboard and the side window. I didn't believe him when he told me he hadn't put it there on purpose. It was wedged in too firmly for all that nonsense. Back on the road. I am a very introverted person and treasure calm moments. Dan talked. And talked. And talked. For hours. About ridiculousness, mainly how great he was in so many ways. And kept trying, horribly I might add, to seduce me. I was completely over him. Twice I almost kicked him out, but kept reminding myself that he had suffered severe head trauma and I couldn't leave him alone in the middle of nowhere with no money and still call myself a good person. It became my mantra. At the next gas station he admitted that his family had never put money into his account. I was now seriously worried that I was going to run out of money before I could get to Oregon. I had been worried about that before I had started supporting a grown man for the last several weeks. Now I was approaching frantic. When we stopped to sleep at a hotel I could only afford 1 room but made sure there were 2 beds. I'm laying down trying to Gus Fraba. He gets in the shower. A long shower, but I'm okay with that, at least he's out of my space for a bit. Hopefully he'll whack it and stop harassing me for booty was my thought at the time. Suddenly the bathroom door, which was a few feet from the side of my bed, flew open. A great cloud of steam billowed out. I have never witnessed so much steam after a shower. I'm still thinking WTF when the steam clears enough for me to see him. He's standing right inside the bathroom door, hands on hips, completely naked. I start stammering, asking WTF he's doing, get dressed, etc. He just struts out naked and starts doing a gyrating dance, causing his penis to jump and twirl. Pulling the blankets up protectively and calling my dog to me, I started to feel real fear of this man whom had once been my friend for the first time. Once he saw his strip show was not having the desired effect on me, his whole countenance changed. His expression darkened. I saw open anger on his face. He starts screaming and ranting at me about how great he is and how hard he's been trying to show me, but I just don't get it. He's a wonderful man, a perfect man with a perfect penis, right here awaiting my pleasure, and I am insisting on being a blind, ignorant b. TCH. He continues calling me names while simultaneously trying to convince me I'm stupid for not being with him while I have the chance. He was naked the whole time he was yelling. Thinking back on it, I believe he took such a hot shower to make it look bigger, which really does crack me up. People are so strange. It took forever to get him calmed down and dressed. I was trying not to show how scared I was. The reality of my situation hit me hard. I was alone in a hotel room far from everyone I knew with a mentally unstable man. One who felt I, somehow, owed it to him, or myself, to have sex with him. I already knew he had no boundaries. I lay there holding my dog all night, listening to every rustle coming from his side of the room. I was terrified that if I fell asleep I would wake up to him trying to rape me. Thank God for my pit bull, I'm sure she was a major deterrent. I didn't sleep a wink and my dog, catching the mood, wouldn't even leave my side to eat her dinner or breakfast. The reasons I didn't leave him there the next morning were 1, he would be gone before I had to get another room, and 2, he promised his family would give me some cash when we got there. I needed it desperately, mainly because of him. Last day with him. We're off main interstate and heading south. He was allegedly going to help me drive for the trip, but neglected to tell me that he didn't actually have a license. No way was that going down. So I take off on 0 sleep and pure nerves. Now I had wanted to put his drop-off location in my MapQuest itinerary to make it easier for me since I'd never strayed from the main interstate before. However, I was never able to get him to give me the actual address of where I was taking him. He continually assured me that it was easy peasy, no way I could get lost, etc. until I gave up in exasperation. I'm still furious and shaken about the night before, and he immediately got us lost for about an hour and a half. Once we got headed back the right way I decided to stop before we hit the main road and let Kali, my doggie, pee. We stopped in a park area with a playground in some tiny town that I didn't pay attention to the name of. I was walking her, having left Dan in the truck with the air on. These 7 guys are walking by adjacent to the park. When they see me, they all stop, talk a second, and almost as one give me the same creepy-ass grins. They turn off the street and walk across the park to the playground area, a few hundred feet in front of me. They lean on the equipment in a loose horseshoe centered on me, still smiling. They didn't say anything or signal to me, only occasionally speaking lowly to each other. They were all dressed the same, ranged from early teens to early 30s, and just generally gave off bad vibes. They were staring me down until I felt like a rabbit that saw a fox. Kali, who usually loves everyone, started trying to drag me back to the truck, in the opposite direction of these guys. I trusted her and followed, trying to act calm and confident. I felt neither. When I got up to the U-Haul, Dan had the back open. I tried to tell him to close it, "We need to go now," but he was oblivious to all my distress signals. He kept insisting that we try to feed the dog since she didn't eat her last 2 meals. Okay, but feed her in the truck. We have to go. A quick side glance showed the men were still by the playground staring, but now they weren't leaning on the equipment. They were standing close together, talking and watching us. This is when Fantastic Dan informs me that he lost the keys. What? Really? I feel a sinking in my stomach and demand we search right now, quickly. As I scour the ground, I see the men have separated. 2 are in the same place. 2 are circling wide to the right, 2 doing the same on the left. They are all still staring at us and I've lost track of one. I finally spot him. He must have started circling to the left before the other 2, because he was now almost directly behind the U-Haul, maybe 100 feet back. He was hidden from my sight where I'd been searching. I was officially losing my grip on myself. Full fight or flight mode was taking over. I knew I had searched every inch of space Dan could have possibly been around, several times, even running my hands across the ground just in case. These guys were circling us and we couldn't get away. Our phones were locked in the cab. For a minute time seemed to slow down and I just stared off, thinking how totally screwed we were. I think all the stress may have overloaded my system for a moment. My eyes strayed to the bag of dog food. The whole reason Dan had gotten out of the cab in the first place. No way. Not possible. But maybe. Time snapped back into regular focus and I practically dove for the dog food bag, cursing and threatening Dan the whole time. Like a maniac, I yanked it up and dumped it all over the back of the U-Haul. And there they were, the keys shining silver in the wave of brown kibbles. I could have killed Dan in that moment, twice, but I just slammed and locked the back and got us the hell out of there. The rest of the trip to where I dropped him off is a blur. I know he got us lost again, for about 2 hours this time. I used that time to scream at him, admittedly not my best moment. Eventually he had me drop him off on some random main street in a little town that looked like all the others. He didn't even tell me it was his destination until he had me pull over. I was angry that he wouldn't take me to his family's to get at least some money for taking care of him, giving him a place to stay, and driving him so far. We had a truly marvelous fight, but I eventually gave up. I was just happy to be rid of him. I was exhausted, but too overstimulated to sleep. So I decided to try to get a few more hours in to make up for the lost time and get back into familiar territory. My next stop for gas was where the gas station attendant tried to send me to his family enclave in the desert and Mr. Texas saved my ass. So while I still don't know exactly where that creepy attendant lived, I do know it was south of Dallas, a little to the west, and way out in nothingness, not off the interstate as I mistakenly assumed before my mom reminded me of my hellish detour with a scary ex-friend. This is the original post, which happened shortly after I dropped off Dan.